the shale, and I heard a screeching, something between a screech and a whistle. I said, what in the world is this? And I heard a boom. Then my whole house shook.
White says he didn't realize it was a plane at the time, so he didn't call anybody.
The first thought came to me, I said, well, what's a meteorite coming out of space or something? And I said, well, if the airplane, it needed to be reported. That thing was flying just too low.
The F-35B airplane wreckage created an extensive debris field. The wreckage is located off Old Georgetown Road. Military security is very tight, with numerous red and white signs on the...
What's up, everybody? This is We Talk Freely, and that, oh, right there. All right, that was a gentleman who witnessed the fabled F-35 plane crash that we've been hearing about all over our news feeds for the past few days. Love the way this man described it. It sounds almost exactly like an airplane engine, doesn't it? Gotta love the people here in the South. Surrounded by all kinds of great people like that, and I love it. I love this place. Yeah, very interesting story about this whole thing missing. You know, I've heard a lot of wild explanations about it, but I think an official report has been put out. But before we go into that, my name is Drew Smith. This is We Talk Freely. Just want to remind you guys to remember to share out this video, like this video. You know, let people know about it. I do believe that YouTube has started to, I guess you could say, shadow ban or whatever my channel. My analytics have completely crushed off. And I know it's because I started posting all the links and all the information about everything that we talk about in the description below. Yes, they don't like information getting out to you, whatever it is, but help me defeat this algorithm issue and get this out to as many people as you can. This is basically a news diary of everything that's going on, and we've got a lot to get into today. So let's get into it. Like I said, you know, we started off with that airplane crash, and we're starting to get an official explanation, I guess, and they're calling it a bad weather issue. Now, I'm not very far from where this went down in South Carolina. Literally, I can see, when I go over the bridges where I live, I can literally see South Carolina. Actually see South Carolina from my home. So Charleston isn't very far away. It's about an hour or so away from me. And the weather wasn't bad that day. It wasn't really that bad. I think we had a little bit of rain or something like that, but these airplanes should have no problem flying through it, dealing with it. But, you know, here from the New York Post, we've got F-35 pilot ejected from $100 million jet over South Carolina due to bad weather as experts reveal why plane couldn't be tracked. The pilot who ejected from the $100 million fighter claimed to have lost the plane in the weather and likely bailed out before he could activate its tracking system, sources and experts said. Quote, he's unsure of where his plane crashed, said he just lost it in the weather. A voice can be heard saying of the pilot on a Charleston County Emergency Medical Services call posted Tuesday by a meteorologist. I don't know about y'all. I'm not buying it. It seems like a lame excuse. You know, I don't think there's like any kind of like major conspiracy theory or anything like that, but it sounds to me like there was just some wild pilot error in this whole thing. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. You know, I've talked to so many people about this crazy little story here, and it seems like the most popular opinion from everybody is that the plane may have been hacked or something of that nature. I don't know about all that. That would take a wild amount of equipment, you know, some weird device that you could actually lock onto the plane, but who knows? I don't think we're going to get any kind of honest explanations on that, but I figure, you know, at least update you guys on what I'm starting to see roll out in the news. And this is what it is that bad weather influenced the pilot to eject from a perfectly good plane that ended up crashing roughly 60 miles away. Wild. All right, so moving forward, today's been a really rough day for A.G. Garland. Actually, the past couple days for A.G. Garland. I've got a video here that I want to show you, and we're going to get into a little bit about what's going on.
So he would stop looking into Burisma, where Hunter was on the board. Would you agree? All right, let's let the American people decide. Play the clip. Play the clip.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from
Pay attention, sir, please.
Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to the press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Mr. Attorney General, what you just saw there was Joe Biden in his arrogance and role as the vice president in this country saying if you don't fire Shokin, the United States isn't given the $1 billion loan. Why would Joe Biden say that as the vice president? Why would he say such a thing? Was it policy? Was it our policy at the time? Yes or no? It wasn't. I have documents here. Interagency Policy Committee dated October 15th.
Point of information, is the gentleman ever going to let the
I'm
gentleman
on my
answer
time,
question?
pipe down. Saying Shokin had made
Time belongs to
significant
the gentleman
reforms.
from Texas.
He's made significant reforms. Shokin did. Matter of fact, John Kerry says he was impressive. And within a few months after Shokin was fired, they appoint a prosecutor that said, we're not going to look into Burisma anymore. Cancel that, forget it, we're not looking into Burisma. Boom, here comes the $1 million. Joe Biden threatened the Ukrainian president and the prime minister, everybody can see it, to fire Shokin, or the United States won't give the $1 billion. If that is not quid pro quo, sir, what is? I will tell you what it is, and America agrees with me. It's bribery, and it's impeachable. Are you going to do something about it? I bet you not, and that's why you, sir, also need to be impeached. I yield back.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
Ouch. Ouch. He brings up some great points. I appreciate the Daily Caller for posting up that clip. He came straight for him. He didn't want him to respond, and I love how he cut everyone off. He wasn't having it. He wanted to get his point out. But it's a great question, Attorney General Garland. He should be going after this, every bit of this. He literally confessed of a quid pro quo situation. And again, I want to remind everybody that just a few years ago, everybody was going after Donald Trump for doing the exact same thing, for having a quid pro quo. And I do believe, if memory serves me correctly, that was a big impeachment push as well. So if we can go after one U.S. Politician, then why can't we go after others that do the exact same thing? Joe Biden has not denied that any of this is true, and we see from the evidence that has come out that it did actually happen. We've seen whistleblower accounts. We can actually literally see, that the chair was vacated and replaced. This is all something that needs to be addressed, and he asked a great question. Why isn't he going after it? So further in these hearings, we see a lot more, and this, I think Ms. Spartz here, she does a great job. I definitely recommend checking her out. Victoria Spartz, and I appreciate X for having that quick throw up right there. She goes off on him and brings a lot of good information to light. This clip is a little bit longer, so bear with me, but listen to what she has to say. She brings up some amazing points in this clip, and I think you guys should definitely listen.
American not to be afraid of my government. But I wanted to tell you, and I want to share with you and get your thoughts on that. Are you aware that a lot of Americans are now afraid of being prosecuted by your department? Are you aware about that? Are you aware of that? I'm just saying, are you aware or not?
I think that constant attacks on the department and saying
No,
that...
it's not attacks. Well, let me give you an example.
I don't know
We talk about January 6th. People.
I'm sorry?
Here, some people came on January 6th. There probably were some people that came on January 6th here, that had bad intent. But a lot of good Americans from my district came here because they are sick and tired of this government not serving them. They came with strollers and the kids, and there was chaotic situation because the proper security wasn't provided. That's a question that was answered really why. Why we debated for 45 minutes on the floor and didn't stop the debate after the people broke into the Capitol. But these people came, they were throwing the smoke bombs into the crowd with strollers with kids. People were showed up, FBI agent to people's houses. You had in my district, in my town, FBI phone numbers all over the district. Please call that. People are truly afraid. I just want to make sure if you're not aware that you are. And this is a big problem when people are afraid of their own government. And I'll share some other things. We're talking about justice system. I don't question, you're probably not a bad person. I don't know you, but I'll tell you, you're in charge of the department. And people right now feel, I look at Durham report and I call on the FISA violations of queries of millions of Americans, right? It's like KGB, but when I read Durham reports, we have this, you have a nice, playbook. First, let's have a special counsel, and then you don't have to answer any questions here. Then, let's extend slow walk investigation on Hillary Clinton, on Hunter. Everything is slow walk. We were very quick on Donald Trump, but you were very slow walk. Then, by the time, that investigation and its statute of limitation expired, and all of your agents need to be tested for amnesia. No one recalls anything. Okay, you probably should have as part of your hiring policy. So no one held accountable, which was egregious what happened, in that report. When I read about them, I can't believe it happened in the United States of America. This is my frustration. I'll be honest with you. Then it's very interesting, regardless what it is, even people in Obama administration raised concerns. How can President sons be serving on, corrupt Ukrainian oligarchs? Do you understand that it actually can undermine the one Ukrainian effort and policy? I think these concerns were raised. The Obama administration didn't do anything about it. These people are dying right now, and Americans don't trust this president. So I want to ask you one thing. I don't need answer because I know you're not going to, but I think you're probably a good American and you care. And a lot of these people are so afraid they cover up this stuff, I think, in your department because they're embarrassed that what we became as a country to say that what our Department of Justice became. That allows Russians to do propaganda in Chinese. It allows them to destabilize our country. That is danger to our republic. It is significant danger. And I have just one more question from you. I agree on corporate crimes and FISA stuff, even with Democrats, that we need to do a better job. One more question for you. Do you believe that, you talk about rights to vote, but do you believe that only U.S. citizens should be voting in this election and doing anything to make sure that only eligible people vote in elections?
Yes and yes.
Okay, I would like to see that, what you do. Thank you. American not to be afraid.
She's a badass, y'all. She is a badass. Those are great questions that she has. Do you realize that the American people are afraid of this department? And I believe that's an extremely, extremely valid question that she brings up in all of this. I do believe it's true. I can't believe A.G. Garland wouldn't even attempt to answer that. I'm afraid. Almost everyone that I talk to is afraid. Everyone says, I can't talk about or do this because you never know if the government's listening. A famous conservative right-wing joke that I always hear is that I've always got a FBI agent listening on the other end of every single microphone that I have, we're always being monitored, the big brother thing. Yeah, we're terrified. As most Americans, we are terrified that at any time our FBI or any kind of branch of government with legal power to do so may come arrest us for any reason. There's other videos and bits of evidence that I have that come across my stream all the time of FBI agents randomly coming to doors. And you know, she was talking about the people in her district. You know, she's dealing, you know, one of the things that she was talking about was the kids in strollers and stuff like that were there in that crowd. And our government and the officers there at January 6th took no heed to that. No precaution to protect those children. You know, little itty bitty kids. And yet they're throwing smoke grenades and stuff like that in the middle of that crowd with no regard to safety at all. There's other January 6th footage out there where these guys were shooting, I guess, were the pepper ball or paintball guns. And there's one video that always sticks out in my mind where one of those rounds went through a guy's cheek. And in the middle of the crowd, people are trying to give him aid and trying to help him out. And he's just got this hole blown out in the side of his face. Like, there was no regard for safety. And so it's very legitimate in every level, whether you're at home or you're going to a protest. If you're on the conservative or Republican or alt-right side or any of that, there is no regard for our safety. So at least I can say she's right to ask that question, because half this country at a minimum, is afraid of their safety being compromised by our own government. That's why I think she's a badass, because she's bringing up things that really do need to be talked about. You know, another thing that she's talking about, you know, and I was talking about Weiss in another episode, I think like 2 or 3 episodes before, you know, about slow rolling the investigations until the statutes of limitations run out. And then she said then after that, everyone has amnesia about the issues. They can't answer any questions about these issues in any further investigations that happen thereafter. And that's just a huge sign of the corruption that Donald Trump, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and many other people are out there talking about. And for Democrats and people on the left to just, you know, see no evil, hear no evil, say no evil, that's insane to me. You know, if you're a representative of the people, you should be looking out for the well-being of the people. There's so many investigations out there that need to be had, so many questions that need answers to them. And I'm so glad that she put this on record out there in the public for everyone to see. This video will be linked down below. If there's anything you missed, I highly suggest that you look it up. In my list of things, it'll be number 4 on that list. Go watch it over and over and over again like your favorite song on the radio. I implore you. What a great, great questioning of A.G. Garland. So now the next thing to talk about is, while we're on the topic of January 6th, I don't know if you've heard about it, but Ray Epps is finally going to get charged, right? A misdemeanor. A misdemeanor. Really? A misdemeanor. So, you guys remember, like the Proud Boys and everybody that got charged like 20 some odd years. Some of them not even being there. We've got people that were just on the Capitol grounds that are still in detainment to this day, that haven't even gone to court, that haven't even seen a judge to defend themselves. People are being put in what's called the hole in prison. They're being tortured for the most part in these facilities. But this guy is going to get a misdemeanor at best. Let me think about this real quick. And this is what he did.
I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it, okay? Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
Okay, so that dude literally is on video getting people riled up to go into the Capitol. And there's the people right there in the video. Look, these are all kinds of people that did end up going in. You got a dude right here with a Trump mask, and you got like MAGA hats and all this stuff all around, right? These are all the people that were planning on marching up to the Capitol and having a peaceful protest. But this guy, Ray Epps, right here, he's the one that literally orchestrated going into the Capitol, as he literally just said. With all the people that have been arrested, even the old ladies that have been arrested, our government, including A.G. Garland, refused till just now to do anything about him. And now, at best, they're trying to hit him, I think, with a disorderly conduct. Let's read from WND here and see what they have to say, shall we? Ray Epps, on January 6, 2021 Capitol protester who was cast as provocateur by multiple commentators because he was on video urging the crowd to break into the Capitol, yet was not charged, now has been charged with a misdemeanor. As more than 1,000 people who sometimes did not do even as Epps had, urging the crowd to violate the Capitol, were charged sometimes with felonies, he remained without a court date. There have been cases against people who are not even in Washington that day. And that right there, that's a reference to the dude from Proud Boys. Was it Enrique Ontario, I think is his name? That dude got 22 years. And he wasn't even, I don't even think he was allowed in Washington, D.C. at that time, period. And he wasn't even close. But he got 22 years just because he's associated with people. But Ray Epps, as you saw on this video, literally telling people to violate the law that Democrats are freaked out about. This dude has been on 60 Minutes doing interviews. He's been out walking free like nothing ever happened, pretending that he's innocent this whole time. And finally, he's getting a misdemeanor. The Washington Examiner reports Epps, quote, became the focus of online theories about the government plotting the incident, and now has been accused of disorderly conduct. There it is. He previously filed a defamation claim against Fox News and Tucker Carlson, who then was a host for the network, for speculating about his involvement in the events that day. Quote, Monday's charges state that then Vice President Mike Pence was presiding over the joint session of Congress for the certification of the 2020 election. Epps' conduct did in fact impede and disrupt the orderly conduct of government business and official functions, U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves wrote in a short 2-page filing, according to the report. This is probably one of the few only people that are caught red-handed, dead to rights, provoking this massive attack, or whatever you want to call it. He's the one that was actually instigating this. You can, like I said, go back to this video that I just showed you. All you got to do is go to Rumble, type in Ray Epps, nothing else. And you can find all kinds of videos and information about this dude and his behaviors. There's even videos of what he was doing all over the Capitol grounds, how he was pushing people and instigating people to do more than what they were actually doing. This guy was ground zero. Like he's one of the main people, no matter how you look at it. There is no allegedly about it when you literally have a video of this man saying exactly what he said.
I'm going to put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it, okay? Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. He literally said that. And other people have been arrested for just having a cell phone ping on the property of the Capitol. Just being there. No evidence of them breaking windows, no evidence of them destroying property, just being a part of it. They went to jail, and some of those people are still sitting in jail. But this guy, who has all kinds of video evidence, and those people, I'm sure some of those people in that crowd are the ones that are in the jail, but those people are in jail, and he's walking freely, only facing, as of today, a misdemeanor disorderly conduct. He's going to get the little light slap on the wrist, while other people have been literally shoved in a prison hole for months, if not years. That's why people like her, representatives like her, are asking A.G. Garland straight up, do you realize that people are afraid of the government? Because people don't know when the law will be exercised and when it won't. You know, we watched as BLM burned down buildings, caused multiple deaths. They attacked government businesses, and none of them went to jail. And these people, on January 6th, they went to peacefully protest, as the news, like CNN and MSNBC and everybody said over and over and over again, it's all right to peacefully protest, it's fine. So they went to peacefully protest that day. But they went to jail, while this guy walks free. Moving on with this, AG Garland is pressed even further about the Ray Epps situation. Let's watch.
You're citing the Constitution. I'm going to cite it. It's our constitutional duty to do oversight. Now, in that video, that was your answer to a question to me 2 years ago, when I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol, and how many went into the Capitol. Can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, last time, you don't know how many there were, or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions. If there were any, I don't know how many. I don't know whether there are any.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any. You want to say that again, that you don't know that there were any?
I have no personal knowledge of this matter. I think what I said the last time.
You've had 2 years to find out. And the day, by the way, that was in reference to Ray Epps, and yesterday you indicted him. Isn't that a wonderful coincidence? On a misdemeanor. Meanwhile, you're sending grandmas to prison. You're putting people away for 20 years for merely filming. Some people weren't even there yet. You got the guy on video who's saying go into the Capitol. He's directing people to the Capitol before the speech ends. He's at the site of the first breach. You've got all the goods on him, 10 videos, and it's an indictment for a misdemeanor? The American public isn't buying it. I yield the balance of my time to Chairman Jordan.
May I answer the question?
I'm going to ask you one now. We'll let the gentleman.
Yeah.
Go ahead, but
in discovery, in the cases that were filed with respect to January 6th, the Justice Department prosecutors provided whatever information they had about the question that you're asking. With respect to Mr. Epps, the FBI has said that he was not an employee or informant of the FBI. Mr. Epps has been charged, and there's a proceeding, I believe, going on today on that subject.
The charge is a joke. I yield to the chairman.
The time the gentleman has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman.
The answer is a joke. Like, he doesn't know how many people were on the ground that day that were involved with the FBI. Now, this is an interesting thing because this leads me in to the next story that I wanted to report about. I got a little out of... Yeah. Whoop. Let me rearrange that. FBI lost count of how many paid informants were at Capitol on January 6th and later performed audit to figure out the exact number, ex-official. Wow. How many were actually there? They lost count. In this article, it says the FBI had so many paid informants at the Capitol on January 6, 2021, that it lost track of the number and had to perform a later audit to determine exactly how many confidential human sources run by different FBI field offices were present that day. A former assistant of the Bureau has told lawmakers. At least one informant was communicating with his FBI handler as he entered the Capitol, according to Stephen D'Antuono, formerly in charge of the Bureau's Washington field office. There were so many that they lost count, and they had to then do an audit. All right? This sheds a light on a whole new way of thinking about this whole thing. And if you have friends that are conspiracy theorists that have been talking about how this may have been orchestrated or infiltrated or whatever by the government, the evidence is really starting to stack up that your tinfoil hatty friends may be onto something, right? They may not be exactly correct, but they're definitely onto something here. A.G. Garland said that this guy was not working for the FBI according to what the FBI said. But one thing that I've learned recently is that the FBI does not have to tell the truth on anything. I don't know if he was working for any kind of government institution or anything like that, but I do know that this guy right here was definitely instigating the activities of what was happening. And the FBI lost count of how many paid informants were at the Capitol. So that means there was two lines of attack against the people who were there to peacefully protest, right? They had corrupt individuals with ill intent, and then they had government agents mixed in with them. I don't know much about entrapment laws, but I swear this sounds like something that could be applicable to it. All of this seems like a giant setup for those people that were just there to peacefully protest against what they thought was a rigged election. You know, what happened to all those news agencies that said it was our fundamental right to express our grievances against the government? You know, what happened to all our First Amendment protections? Now, yes, there were people that vandalized the building, and yes, those people should be charged fairly. But for all the rest of the people, like he said, there was people that were just holding cameras, just taking pictures, that went to jail. Meanwhile, Ray Epps, who literally instigated going into the Capitol, is only going to get a disorderly conduct charge, which in most jurisdictions, as far as I know, is a very small misdemeanor charge. And most of the time, like, I don't know if Ray Epps has a criminal history, but if he gets First Offender Act, he gets that wiped off of his record forever, as long as he serves his time peacefully. He doesn't commit any laws. That's normally the deal that's made. It's wild to me. And A.G. Garland, he says this.
That means we apply the same laws to everyone. There is not one set of laws for the powerful and another for the powerless, one for the rich and another for the poor, one for Democrats and another for Republicans, or different rules depending upon one's race or ethnicity or religion.
Okay, if that's true, BLM riots, versus the January 6th riot. Explain that, A.G. Garland. Somebody explain that to me in the chat. Put your partisan politics completely away. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, centrist, independent, libertarian, whatever. Explain how BLM protesters can burn down a church across the street from the White House, how BLM can turn city centers into rubble, and they don't get a fraction of the punishments that January 6th protesters got. How many people are sitting in these federal prisons right now being tortured for just being on the Capitol grounds on January 6th? Meanwhile, BLM, Antifa, and all these other groups, they literally created these autonomous zones, or whatever you want to call them, completely took over sections of cities, attacked police departments, attacked government, all kinds of government institutions. We've seen people break into Speaker Kevin McCarthy's office and host protests there. He says it doesn't matter whether what your color is, what your political affiliation is, that the law is held equally, right? So why aren't the people from all these other protests sitting in jail alongside of the January 6th protesters? Huh? What sense does that make? Yeah, I'm not saying that as a Republican or as a conservative. Hell, this is probably more of my days of being a Democrat from back in the day. You know? That's not fairness of the law. That's not fairness of the justice system at all. You can't punish one set of people to the fullest extent of the law while being nice to people that broke the law to the fullest extent. You are picking favorites. You're picking the people who align with your political interests the most. That's specifically what our government is doing in my eyes. That's exactly what I'm seeing. As I go through my feeds on the left and I go through my feeds on the right, it verifies both ways. People on the left are celebrating conservatives and Republicans being arrested, while conservatives and Republicans are condemning the arrests of these people. Meanwhile, BLM and Antifa people, they walk free. They're not being investigated. Their cell phones aren't being tracked. FBI isn't randomly showing up to their homes. But little old ladies that were just on the Capitol grounds, way away from all the chaos, they're going in and spending years, if not decades, in prison just for existing in the location. They didn't burn nothing down. And if you notice, when the people did go into the Capitol building, there was barely any damage done. I dare somebody in the federal government to give me a financial total of damages for the Capitol 6 riot versus any of the BLM or Antifa riots. I dare them. And then explain why the January 6 Capitol people deserve to be in prison as long as they do, but the BLM and Antifa people don't. It makes no sense to me. No sense at all. Actually, it gets me kind of worked up. Oh, I already showed this video. So let's move forward. This is another one from Eric Garland. And let's listen to it real quick and then we'll go on from there.
Is it a crime to question an election in the United States of America? It is a crime. Is it a crime for the U.S. citizens to say, we want to ask about this election, we want to question this election, we actually want to look into the election? Is that a crime when citizens just question an election in America now?
Again, I think you're asking not a hypothetical, but something specific about specific.
I think that's just general. I don't think that's specific. Elections have been questioned for decades past. Is that now a crime in America?
Did you say to ask questions about an election? Is that what you said?
To question an election. Just to
No,
question the results.
It's not a crime to question an election.
Because I questioned the election results in 2020. And there are a lot of people in America that do, and they question the weaponization of government attacking American citizens. And so you, sir, have an issue with trustworthiness of the American people and with Congress at this point. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Big old facts. We don't trust. At least I don't trust our government. Not after what we've seen. And Garland said right there, no, it is not a crime to question the elections. So at this point, everything that's going on with Fani Willis, all those charges need to be dropped. Every bit of it needs to be dropped. You have right there, A.G. Garland said right there on the floor, no, it is not a crime to question the election. Donald Trump and 18 others, lawyers and representatives with him, they were questioning the election. That's what they are being held responsible for here in the state of Georgia. They need to be let off, all charges dropped. There is no case anymore. If you've got A.G. Garland right there saying that there's nothing against the law to question an election, just like Hillary Clinton did before, charges need to be dropped. That simple. I don't know why we will see any more court or anything after today, after this. It's done. It's said right there. It is not illegal to question an election. Why? Because it's protected by our freedom of speech, our First Amendment. I can question anything. It doesn't matter. It's just my opinion. It's just what I want to say. It's if I act upon it, that's where the law breaking happens. That's why January 6th was so crucial. And that's why media organizations are blowing it up to the level that they are going to today. Because they want the opinions to turn into actions so they can then prosecute the people that they don't like. They can put the people that they don't like in jail for having an opinion. The vast majority of those people there on January 6th were there questioning an election. They believed there was fraud. They believed that there were things that did not add up properly. And if you go back into a couple of my episodes, I have posted court hearings talking about, just here in the state of Georgia alone, over 100,000 verifiably false ballots that were cast in our state. A state that was lost by roughly 12,000 votes. A tenth of the faulty votes that were counted in the state of Georgia. A lot of people saw that throughout their states. As Arizona, they had ballots printed on wrong size sheets of paper that ended up causing the machines to jam. So there was many votes that never got counted. And because many other states refused to let investigations go forward, refused to allow these court cases to be heard, we can only just imagine how many more problems there were in that election. Cleanest and clearest election, my behind. This last election was full of problems. And that's why those people were so irately pissed on January 6th. Hearing the way A.G. Garland has responded to all these different questions and accusations, just in my mind proves to me that something nefarious really did happen. And there needs to be much deeper investigations going on in all of this than what we've seen thus far. Now, switching gears, let's take a look at New York here. As you know, we've had a big problem at the border, and we've gone over this in previous episodes. With in Texas, they're loading people up on buses and sending them to the sanctuary cities. The Biden administration also has buses going down to collect people and dropping them off in various other cities other than sanctuary cities. We're spreading migrants all throughout our nation. And Mayor Eric Adams here is really upset about what it's doing to his city, as well as the people are. People are pissed. I don't know if you seen the videos with AOC trying to do a meet the press kind of thing in front of one of the buildings out there, and everybody's surrounding her going, send them home, and screaming all kinds of obscenities and stuff. People of New York are tired of it. They're tired of their hotels, their schools, and everything being overrun. And so New York, like in this article says here, New York Mayor Adams calls out Biden for not meeting with him, helping with the migrant crisis. But, you know, I got to ask, before I get into this article, what help do you need, Eric Adams? It's a sanctuary city. You declared a sanctuary city status. You should have been ready for this influx of people. You knew that declaring yourself a sanctuary city was basically raising a giant flag and saying, hey, come here. We got you. We'll take care of you. But now their city is overrun and you can't keep up with the costs. Let's read into this. This comes from the Washington Times, as you see there at the top. President Biden's trip to New York City wasn't met with warm welcome from Mayor Eric Adams, as the two are not seeing eye to eye on how much the federal government should be helping the city with the migrant crisis. Mr. Biden arrived in New York City on Sunday for the United Nations General Assembly and is staying until Wednesday. And while he's meeting leaders from around the world, he is not scheduled to see Mr. Adams. Why not? It's like he's avoiding it. But if you remember, Vice President Kamala Harris, she's the immigration czar. She's the border czar. Whatever it is. She's the one who's supposed to be in charge of all of this, not directly Biden. So why isn't Eric Adams upset with Kamala? Kamala was just there on 9/11 at the ceremony, you know, honoring the victims of 9/11. Why didn't Eric Adams sit down with her? Why is he going directly at Biden? Let's read on. The two have been at odds over lackluster federal response to the migrant crisis. The mayor has repeatedly asked the president for funds to handle the issue and to figure out a way to shift through the influx of migrants that the city is seeing. More than 100,000 over the past year. Now I'm curious. Let's look this up. How many people are in New York City? Yep. 8.468 million people in that city. 100,000 people is a pretty big dent to the population there. A really big dent to that population. And that's just over this past year. How many people in total have flooded into that city since this border crisis started? I'm willing to bet at least 250,000, making that what? And I'm horrible at math, about a 16th or a 17th of the entire population. That's a lot of people. A lot of people dependent on the system. Quote, President Biden is coming to the city, Mr. Adams said at an event on Tuesday. I'm hoping that he understands this beautiful city that's the economic engine of the entire country is being saddled with a $2 billion cost that we spent already $5 billion we're going to spend in this financial or fiscal crisis. $12 billion in the next 2 budgetary cycles. Quote, New York didn't deserve this. The asylum seekers don't deserve this, he said. The mayor said that while Mr. Biden's in town, they should really reflect on New York City has done its part. I can keep reading on. I'll have this, or actually, it was pretty much done. Quote, let's see here. Mr. Adams said that the president could easily find him if he wanted to meet up. Quote, I'm very public. Everybody knows where I am, he said. Yeah, sorry. So, yeah, Biden doesn't want to meet up with him because what's happening in his city has nothing to do with him. Kamala Harris is the one who's in charge of it. If Eric Adams wants more assistance for his sanctuary city, he needs to be bringing up the vice president. He needs to be talking to her. If she's the border czar, if she's in charge of immigration, he needs to be talking to the people that are actually, or the person who is responsible for it. And then he needs to come to terms with, why is it the responsibility of all the rest of the American taxpayers to bail out the decisions that he made? If he and the people around him didn't stand up and say that this is a sanctuary city, then like Texas and Arizona and all them wouldn't be busing migrants to his city directly. He literally asked for it, and now he wants to penalize the taxpayers of the entire country for the choices that he made. That makes no sense to me. Because you think about it, federal taxes come from everybody. They come from people in Florida, they come from people in California, they come from Ohio. It doesn't matter what state, federal taxes come from the entire nation as a whole. So if Texas is suffering down there with a migrant crisis, why should the people of Texas pay inflated taxes to cover Mayor Eric Adams? You know, all of this is going to go into why the government is shutting down. Make it make sense. So his response in all of this, since he made that statement, is, let's remove statues. Really? To appease his voter base, I'm sure. Because right now he's looking really bad. And so the city council and Eric Adams are both proposing to remove what they consider racist statues. From what I understand, George Washington is amongst one of the statues that they're looking to remove. And, y'all, this just gives me a headache. So this comes from ABC 15 News, directly from their website. New York City considering removing statues of slave owners in slew of anti-racism proposals. New York City will vote on a slew of measures seeking to acknowledge the city's history of slavery Tuesday, including removing any statues of slave owners. Statues that could be impacted by one of the New York City Committee on Cultural Affairs, Libraries, and International Intergroup Relations proposals include those of American Revolution heroes George Washington and Marquis de Lafayette. Also up for removal could be Dutch explorer and settler Peter Stuyvesant. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with names. I'm that guy that if I was ever a teacher, I would be like Jake Quillen, you know, that whole skit. Like, I'm terrible with names, so don't shoot me. Founding father John Jay and prominent early New York political figure and Erie Canal proponent DeWitt Clinton. If the city elects not to remove the statues, it must adorn them with plaques denoting their past involvement with slavery. All right, the second part, I'm cool with. If you want to put like a little badge or something saying, yo, this dude or whoever owned slaves, that's fine, okay? I do see value in talking about slavery and educating people about it, but there's got to be an understanding that during that time, it was more of a normality than it was an egregious act. You know, the majority or plurality of the people did at that time support slavery. Not saying in hindsight, as I am today, that it was right. But during that time, a lot of the people that created this country did own slaves. And it is what it is, man. We have that blemish on our nation's history. It sucks. It's not just our nation. It's many nations across this world. But yeah, taking down the statues, at the end of the day, all it's going to do is prevent future generations from learning how we got here in the first place. You know, if we're erasing history, we're taking down the statues, then you don't have kids asking their parents who that is. You know, you don't have kids trying to figure out what what actually happened in our past. And that's the biggest detriment. Our children right now have the hardest time with education as it is. You know, their classrooms are filled with all kinds of different agendas that have nothing to do with real or actual history of our nation and of the world. A lot of these kids are coming out of high school and even coming out of college clueless. And that's why we're seeing such erratic voting across the board in this nation. It's something to seriously consider. Instead of taking statues down and just put up a plaque saying they own slaves, I think that's the best idea for compromise between everybody, the pro-statue people and the anti-statue people. Instead of ripping it down, just put the education that you want people to know there at the base of the statue where everyone can read it. That's the best idea I've heard in all of this since the statues started coming down years ago. So as much as I think this is a crazy idea and a crazy thing to have to bring attention to, that part right there about putting a plaque on, I'm cool with that. Let's run with that. All right? And then we can move on. And that's going to save the taxpayers of New York. And if we can get that adopted in every city in this nation, that's going to save taxpayers across the nation a lot of money and have an actual benefit to the people. Do that. Please. Leave those statues alone. Lastly, last story of the night. I wanted to retouch on something that we were talking about the other day in one of my last episodes with the situation of Russell Brand. You know, if you've heard, you should have seen in your timelines, you know, if you're on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, or, you know, Facebook, Instagram, you pretty much name it. This story has been everywhere. Russell Brand is being accused of egregiously assaulting 4 women, and it's a really messed up situation to be reporting on. I don't want to go too deep into the assault charges. I'm pretty sure you've read about them, you've heard about them. You know, let's just move forward on this. Libs of TikTok posted something on X today that I thought was a fantastic point, and I really want to bring it up to y'all and see what you think. You know, this is We Talk Freely, and here I am just talking freely by myself. Any of these articles that I've been talking about before, I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say, so please leave something in the comments below. But this is something I definitely would love to have a debate about. And here it says, "Hello YouTube, when is R. Kelly, who was convicted on trafficking and porn charges, going to be demonetized?" That is a fantastic question. As we are pulling down Russell Brand, or not we, but YouTube pulled down Russell Brand with no conviction, no finalized evidence or proof that he actually did the things that he's being accused of, he's been demonetized. But R. Kelly is still up, according to Libs of TikTok here. That's a problem. And, you know, a big thing that I've been hearing for the past couple of days, and I even kind of shed a little bit of light on this, is that it means that there's most likely an agenda behind all of this, right? Why are they going after Russell Brand so hardcore for something that hasn't even raised criminal charges? But they'll leave R. Kelly alone. And as far as I'm seeing, and I haven't been able to verify anybody else, there are other YouTubers on that platform that have been convicted of different assaults like this, yet they are still up there. Why is it only Russell Brand is being gone after? Well, let me throw on my tinfoil hat here, because here we go. Appreciate Scott Adams for posting this up. From Mario Nalfall, there on Twitter, X. Breaking: UK government aims to cancel Russell Brand. The British government sent a letter to TikTok and Rumble asking if Brand is able to make a profit from his content on the platform. They're going after Rumble. Rumble. You know, TikTok, it's such a garbage platform. I can't believe that they'd even consider TikTok, but Rumble. From the Culture, Media and Sport Committee, House of Commons, London, right? Dr. Theo Bertram, Director of Government Relations, Europe, to TikTok. I'm writing concerning the serious allegations regarding Russell Brand in the context as a user of TikTok with more than 2.2 million followers on the platform. I want you to see that. That's a threat to TikTok. You're sitting there boasting your following as if something could happen if you don't heed my warnings or whatever. The Culture, Media and Sport is raising questions with the broadcasters who've previously employed Mr. Brand or production companies who employed him to examine both the culture of the industry in the past and whether that culture still prevails today. They said right there in the opening, serious allegations. That is such a broad statement there. Serious allegations are something that lead to investigations. Are they actually investigating this, or is this something that media companies are doing to smear Russell Brand? We'll read on. Although Mr. Brand no longer appears on television, he now has a follower base on social media, including on TikTok, where this weekend he republished his preemptive response to the accusations made against him by the Sunday Times and Channel 4's Dispatch. And that's the one I actually had put on my episode before, so definitely check that out. While we recognize that TikTok is not the creator of the content published by Mr. Brand, and his content may be within community guidelines set out by the platform, we are concerned that he may be able to profit from his content on the platform. Hold up. There it is. So the tinfoil hatty people, the conspiracy theorists, there it is. They are going after his livelihood. They are attacking his character. They are trying to destroy him. And why? Because exactly like what I said in the previous episode. Because he's going after Big Pharma. Because he's going after governments. He's putting out truthful information that people cannot deny. He's cornered honesty against a lot of these people. And they can't stand it. And so they're coming after him. Just like they went after Tucker Carlson and many other conservative interests. I mean, just look at my platform. Look at my view count. Go back. You can see all of a sudden I just crashed when I started posting these links that you see at the top of the screen. I literally just copy the link and post it into the description so you guys can see the exact information that I'm posting. Russell Brand does something very similar to that. On everything that he reports, he puts like in the corners or something like that, the links or the information of where he's getting his data. So you, the viewer, can find it. That's why they're going after Russell. He's got a huge following, and he is opening the minds to so many people. And even more dangerously, he is opening the minds of people that are on the left, that are independent, people that would never consider conservative thinking at all. Russell is the bridge between the two parties. He is opening up a platform that we here at We Talk Freely can truly respect. I may not agree with everything that Russell Brand says or every angle that he comes at, but he's doing the best honest work that he knows how to do. Him and his team are doing a fantastic job. So, now all of a sudden we have these allegations coming from, 20 years ago? Out of nowhere. And the same with the guy from Sound of Freedom. All of a sudden, all these accusations, boo, right here. Going into these elections, these crucial elections, now they're trying to remove the voices of the people that are pointing out the problems that we have in this nation. Mainly because the solution would be somebody like Donald Trump. This is campaign stuff. If Russell Brand was on the left and he was against Donald Trump and he was against Republicans, and he was against conservatives, he was against all of that stuff, I promise you these allegations wouldn't be coming out. I promise you that. But because he is causing problems for the left, they're going to put everything they can into removing his ability to continue speaking. But ladies and gentlemen, I can promise you that he's going to be on Rumble. He's going to be on any platform that he can be. And he's going to be bringing that truth to you. Well, I said I can promise you, but I believe strongly that he's going to. Just like Dan Bongino. Just like Tucker Carlson. Just like Steven Crowder. They lost their platforms, their primary platforms there on YouTube. I think Crowder got his back. So they found alternative ways to continue to get their message across. And Tucker is doing better than ever. Steven Crowder has grown a huge production over there. Dan Bongino is more successful than he's ever been. Russell Brand is going to join the ranks. And we're going to see Rumble continue to grow more and more and more and more. And I hope, I pray that Rumble one day is able to become YouTube's biggest competitor, if not dominate the YouTube market. And while Rumble is doing that, I hope and pray as well that there will be other competition to come up. You know, I come from the days when we had AOL and Yahoo, Lycos, and Google. We had a bunch of search engines out there. And if you didn't like the results from one, you'd just go to another. We had competition in this market. But YouTube and Google have dominated. They have used their market ability and crushed out all their competition. These search engines are still there, but nobody knows about them. Well, maybe not Lycos. That just shows my age. But yo, this is censorship. I really don't believe that what is happening with Russell Brand is honest. I'll be very interested to see how this turns out. I hope that there's some investigations done. I hope Russell Brand has a legal team right now that's putting in the work to clear his name. If he is guilty, though, of course I want to see these women get not retribution, but, you know, justice served for them, of course. But in my gut, in my heart, I just believe that in this situation right here, as we see, like Libs of TikTok points out, this is a hit job. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what I believe. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments below. That's all I've got for you guys tonight. Hopefully you will like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this out to as many people as you can. So like I said, since I started putting all these links up here at the top, YouTube has just cut off my recommendation, 0.0. It doesn't pop up at the end of anybody's videos. It doesn't show up on anybody's timeline or feed or anything like that. I'm going to start doing some more things to see if I can disprove myself about the shadow ban, but the way my numbers have looked the past couple days, it's been looking really rough. So please do everything that you can to circulate this out. We're planning some events, and we got some things coming up here in the future, but I need your support to get me to that point. I'm going to start doing some on locations and putting in a lot of work, but I don't want to put on a lot of work if I don't have anybody watching. But with that being said, if you're here at the end of this video listening to me rant about all this nonsense, you are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. My next episode, today's Wednesday, so my next episode will be Friday. I put my episodes up every other day. give myself a day break in between so I can get some news and do my research and do my thing and bring all this information to you. So thank you so much for being here, and until Friday, stay safe.